And we're back. After what felt like forever, we're here on Full Court Press to give you the breakdown of everything NBA. I'm Richard Geraffo alongside Jordan DeSouza and Matthew Andujo as always. This year's trade deadline is only 6 days away. We're going to break down the most likely destinations for rumored trade pieces. We'll talk about the newest Detroit Piston and the dire situation the Pelicans have found themselves in. We've got a lot to discuss, so let's get right into it. So, guys, let's start with the biggest storyline of the past month. Blake Griffin was traded to the Detroit Pistons in a trade that saw Avery Bradley, Tobias Harris, Boban Marjanovic, a first-round pick, and a second-round pick head over to the Los Angeles Clippers in exchange for Blake Griffin, Willie Reed, and Bryce Johnson. So, Jordan, first thoughts. When this trade happened, what was your first reaction?
It just kind of showed to me that the Pistons are kind of tired of just being that mediocre team. They're going to want to do whatever it can or whatever they can to get to the top of the East. I don't know if this whole Blake Griffin thing is going to work out, but you got to get rich or die trying. So they're going to do what they can with Blake Griffin and then see what that can do for them for the rest of the season.
Yeah, going off what Jordan said, they're tired of being mediocre. They haven't made the postseason in the past. Well, they only made the postseason one time in the past 8 seasons. They were going to re-sign Bradley. His contract was expiring this summer. Tobias Harris was going to be a free agent next summer. So might as well go get some pieces for him. Try to bring in a superstar or an all-star to that team where they're not selling out. They're not selling out arenas. They're not bringing in people in. So they literally had nothing to lose in this situation.
Yeah, like you guys are saying, I think it's a great trade for the Pistons. I feel like, yes, they gave up a lot, but also you get a very good player back. And in his first game, he played last night, we got to see a little bit of that. He had 24, 10, and 5, including one alley-oop to Andre Drummond, just like he did with DeAndre Jordan. And I was thinking about that. I was sitting there saying to myself, Drummond's back. He is the Drummond that was there in 2015 when they made the playoffs and gave the Cavs a very competitive 4-game sweep. And just off of that look of his first game, I think it's going to add a new dynamic, and it's going to add something to the Eastern Conference that really hasn't been there. You look in the West, we had Boogie and AD as a two, very dynamic front court. But now, in the East, we've got Griffin and Drummond, and I think they complement each other very well. But looking at this on the other side of things, let's talk about what the Clippers did. I'm going to say it one more time. We got Avery Bradley, Tobias Harris, Marjanovic, a first-rounder, and a second-rounder. Now, personally, I think the Clippers are going to come out the winners in this trade. Tobias Harris is in the midst of his best season. He's at 18 points per game. He's pretty much a fringe all-star, and it would have been interesting to see if he would have got that last spot if he was still in the East. But, he's in the West, so that's impossible now. And then, as far as Avery Bradley, you were saying his contract's about to be up. Do you think he is a good move, or he would be a good trade piece for them now as a one-year rental? They could get something back long-term?
Absolutely. They can try to get a first-rounder, even a second-rounder. They can do so much things with Blake Griffin gone now. They're clearly in the rebuilding mode. They want to prepare for free agency. They want to make a shot at LeBron and Paul George. So getting those big contracts out, like a Blake Griffin, and then next DeAndre Jordan.
I just think that this is something that the Clippers should have done maybe 2 years ago, but better late than never.
Yeah.
I think they're only one more step away, really, trading DeAndre Jordan from doing that full rebuild, which I think they really should have been doing all along, ever since the Warriors' resurgence up to the top.
Yeah, it sounds like a good idea. And let's transition into another trade that just recently happened. Nikola Mirotic is now in New Orleans Pelicans, and what seemed like would have been a fantastic move 2 weeks ago when Boogie was still healthy is now. We'll see. We'll see if it's a good move or not. But to break it down, Nikola Mirotic from the Chicago Bulls, he's going to end up a New Orleans Pelican for Omer Asik, Tony Allen, Jameer Nelson, and a 2018 first-rounder. Now, I know the Bulls are planning on cutting Allen, so he's going to be a free agent. We'll see what happens with that. But just from the optics of this, what do you think of Mirotic as a Pelican? How do you think he fits with AD?
I like it both short-term and long-term. He's a big body. He can space the floor. We all know how great of a shooter he is. So short-term, it'll help them out a lot. And even long-term, it'll help them out when Boogie does come back, if they can re-sign him. Mirotic is just a great complementary for most bigs in this league, so I don't really see any cons for this trade for the Pelicans at all, and which is a team that is on, I think, the 8th seed right now, so they are going to be looking to make the playoffs this year.
I agree with Jordan as well. It helps them short-term and long-term. Short-term, they get a forward that can stretch the floor. Long-term, they picked up his option for next season, so when they do get Boogie back, or even they re-sign him, they'll bring him off the bench. They have some bench. The Pelicans have always been, the problem with the Pelicans is then their bench, and they finally have a scorer that can come off of it.
Yeah, so they're 2 games ahead of Denver right now for the 8th seed in the Western Conference. After losing DeMarcus Cousins to that Achilles injury we've mentioned a few times, do you see them holding on to this spot, or do you see them regressing and missing the playoffs once again, which could be disastrous for Alvin Gentry and the staff there, because everything that the Pelicans are saying, they need to make the playoffs now.
Personally, I think the Pelicans are going to be able to hold off Denver because just of how dire of a situation it is. I think if the Pelicans can make the playoffs without Boogie, I think that might show Boogie or kind of convince him to stay for next year, maybe re-sign for another couple of years after that. So it's going to be a really big year for the Pelicans.
Yeah, I agree with Jordan. You know, Anthony Davis they have the two-game lead. I believe that they'll eventually hold on to that spot. He's going to be putting up monstrous numbers. He's an all-star starter. He's on Team LeBron. So with him, Mirotic, Rajon Rondo, I think they'll make the playoffs.
I'm of the opposite thinking. I think they're going to lose this spot. You know, the Nuggets, they've been very inconsistent all year. It seems like they win 3 games and they lose 3 games, and they win 3 more, then they lose 3 more. But I think Denver, as they start to get more healthy, and their young guys, you know, Jamal Murray, it's only his 2nd or 3rd season. He's just been killing it lately. He's been playing very well. I think Denver's going to find their footing here. I think Jokic is going to take a little bit of a step forward. And with the return of Millsap, this team, I believe they're going to end up in the 8th seed. So that's going to do it. It's an interesting trade. We'll see what happens. But moving on, the trade deadline, it's only 6 days away. It was moved up this season for the first time in NBA history. And we've got some trades that could happen that we want to talk about here. So some big names that are on the market right now. Let's start with Tyreke Evans. The Memphis Grizzlies have decided to sit Tyreke Evans until they find a trade partner for him. So first glance, Tyreke Evans is in the midst of a career resurgence. He's averaging 19.5 points per game, 5 assists and 5 rebounds, and he looks like the rookie Tyreke Evans that we saw a long time ago that won the Rookie of the Year. Matthew, what are some suitors that you think would be a good fit for Tyreke Evans?
So a team that can use Tyreke Evans is obviously the Cleveland Cavaliers. They've been just a mess. Their benches not been producing. Derrick Rose, Isaiah Thomas, everything's just a mess over there. They need another scorer other than LeBron who can put the ball on the ground. Kevin Love is out for the next 8 weeks, so they desperately need him. So I think the Cavs can honestly trade for Tyreke Evans, but how much are they willing to give up to get him?
Yeah. And Jordan, what do you think?
I mean, even though this might sound a little biased, I'm going to have to go with the Sixers. The Sixers are sitting at the 8th seed right now, only a game ahead of the Pistons, who are the 9th seed. And I think maybe some of the pressure that the Sixers might be feeling from the Pistons getting Blake Griffin might pressure them into getting Tyreke Evans. I personally cannot name one ball handler that can create his own shot on the Sixers roster right now. So I think bringing in Evans, even giving up a first-round draft pick, Evans could easily fill that role that maybe Markelle Fultz was supposed to be filling for them this year.
Yeah, the team that I see Tyreke Evans doing the most for, it's got to be the Denver Nuggets. In a list that was put out by Adrian Woj.
We're just going to give you Woj.
Right, yeah. So in a list that was put out by Woj, we've got the Bucks, the Sixers, the Celtics, the Nuggets, and New Orleans. And of those 5 teams, I think he'd help the Nuggets the most because, as I said, Jamal Murray is playing out of position right now. He's playing he's playing the point guard, even though he is a true shooting guard. And to get a ball handler like Tyreke who can score, he's shooting 39% from 3, which is, we were talking about a little earlier,
yeah.
It's 9% better than his career average. He could come in there, he could handle the first team, he could handle the second team, he could do whatever he really needs to do. He could get open shots for other guys. And, you know, he brings that veteran leadership. A couple years ago, Tyreke, when he was with the Pelicans, he had a good season, but he just kept getting hurt. And that's kind of been the case for him. If he comes into the Nuggets, I believe he's going to take another step forward. He'll stay at that 25-5, and I believe he would be a great fit next to Jamal Murray, next to Will Barton, and with Jokic. I think that would be a very interesting spot for him to land, and I believe the Nuggets have the pieces to make that trade happen. So moving on to what seems like the most talked about and the biggest trade rumor that we have, DeAndre Jordan. The last member of Lob City. He's the last one standing in Los Angeles, and you know it's pretty weird to say that it's all gone.
Survivor.
Yes, but in this season, he's averaging 11.8 points per game. He's got 15 rebounds, which is just astounding, and he's a little down in the blocks category, but he still plays good defense. He's got a player option in 2018-19, which is it's a hefty one. It's $28 million, and the teams interested in DeAndre right now are the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Bucks, and the Wizards. So out of those 3 teams, or if you have another team, where do you think the best fit for DeAndre is if he does get traded?
I would say Milwaukee. You know what they're trying to do there with Giannis, and hopefully they get Jabari back soon. What they have with Bledsoe as well, that would just be a perfect fit. You have a pick and roll point guard and Bledsoe with a pick and roll finisher in DeAndre. You also have Giannis, who also is just, you know, he's becoming a superstar in this league, and I think he would just fit there.
Personally, I mean, I hate to piggyback off what he said, but I have to go with the Bucks as well.
It's a great fit.
If you just look at it from a defensive standpoint, if they were to get DeAndre Jordan, you just got to talk about the length on that team when you have guys like Tony Snell, Giannis, Chris Middleton, and then you added DeAndre Jordan to that mix. I'm not sure what they would have to give up, but then you take into account that Jabari Parker is going to be coming back tonight.
Yep.
So these are all just factors that you have to kind of take into account for. But DeAndre Jordan, I think, would push them over the edge, the Bucks, really, and especially a year where the East kind of seems like it's up for grabs at this point.
Yeah, it's a very tight race, and I agree with you guys. But the team that I want to see DeAndre on, and it's a team that I've wanted to see him on for the last 2-3 years, either him or Boogie, is the Washington Wizards. While they have just lost John Wall for the next 2 months due to a double knee procedure, which, it's really a shame, but I think DeAndre would take the Wizards to a next level. They've had Marcin Gortat for a few years, and he gives you some solid pick-and-roll offense. He plays good defense, but he's not necessarily a standout player. But with a player like DeAndre Jordan, I believe you could switch him you could go Satoransky, a second-rounder in the future, and Gortat. You could get DeAndre over there right away. And I believe he'd be a great fit alongside Bradley Beal, alongside John Wall. He would provide that defense, that rebounding, more toughness that they haven't had. I think it would be a great fit. And if he could end up in Washington, I don't know what it would take to get him there, like specifically, but I think that would be a great fit.
It would be a really great fit, especially with Wall, the DeAndre Wall pick and roll.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Endless lobs for them.
I was also thinking on the defensive end, that'll give Bradley Beal a little more confidence to go out there and get a little more aggressive. John Wall already plays great defense. It gives the whole team the green light to play a little more aggressive, knowing they've got a shot blocker and a rebounder back there behind him.
Exactly, yeah, I think that would definitely be a very good fit for them. I don't know exactly what pieces they would have to give up, but if they can make it happen and still keep their core guys, Wall, Porter, Beal, I think that's a deal that they should definitely pursue.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch the Wizards as the next 16 games they play, they're against 16 playoff teams. So they're in a very dangerous spot right now. Without John Wall, they've got a chance to fall out of the race entirely, or maybe they could just tread water till he gets back, or you never know. Maybe Bradley Beal take another step, and we'll see a new dimension to the first-time All-Star.
Who knows?
It's really going to be interesting. So that's going to do it, isn't it?
Yep.
Looks like that's going to wrap it up.
Sounds good.
All right, well, this is Full Court Press on Coast to Coast Sports. I'm Richard Geraffo. It's Jordan DeSouza and Matthew Andujo. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be here next week.